And they both are making contact.
And we just got fenced.
So do we.
They're both in trouble. Reddick's in trouble. He's got a right rear flat.
The three-way battle for the win late at Darlington. Who was in the right and who was in the wrong? Todd and I will break it down next. Welcome into a new episode of NASCAR Inside the Race presented by Consumer Cellular. Well, it wasn't the Southern 500, but it was a throwback weekend, the 400-miler at Darlington. And in a throwback feel, the number 6 goes to victory lane as with Brad Keselowski. First time as driver-owner. What did you make of Brad's win?
First time in 110 races. What an outcome. And really, Brad was there most of the day. I think you pointed out early, I think the worst running position he had on a green flag was 4th. He was in contention all day. I kind of had him picked as one of the guys outside of the Hendrick and Gibbs camp that could have an impact on the day.
Yeah, RFK, both the 6 and the 17 had speed in qualifying. But much like every Darlington race, there were a ton of battles within the race. I think the first one to talk about, I mentioned qualifying. 45 of Tyler Reddick sits on the pole, gets pit stall 1. The first big battle for me, I think we're basically on pit road, right? So if we look at pit stop times between eventual race winner Brad Keselowski and Tyler Reddick, who led the most laps, you see back and forth. They kind of hand it back and forth. The big difference is, first of all, overall speed is down. The new pit stop is definitely sub 10 seconds.
Yes, yeah, it is. At this point, these teams have refined it to a point that at Darlington, too, I think it's a little easier to pit.
Yeah.
But these teams continue to refine it. 9s are the commons now, not the unexpected. If I think we're not far from seeing 8s being the thrown-in number.
So one I want you to really focus at, because here in a minute we're going to talk about exactly where the 45 pitted in pit stall 1 and how is it an advantage. Look right here at lap 93. The faster pit stop is on the 6. Now, not by much, but we'll call them almost the same speed. Yet the 6 is going to lose the lead to the 45 of Tyler Reddick, and he's going to do it from 4th to 1st. So this is lap 94 on pit out. Now, it's important to remind everybody, right? So this is the 45 car, and they are racing to this white line here.
That's where the camera is lined up for pit exit. It's not the pit exit line, which is this line here.
Can I ask why?
At certain racetracks, they can't get to that point with safety vehicles and different things, but I can't explain why here at Darlington that NASCAR does that, but it's a known. It's a known. It's something that why you race so hard to win a pole on Saturday, because it's a huge advantage for Sunday.
Yeah, so we know it's an advantage for sure. So what does this look like? There you have it. It looks like the 45 is not first off pit road, but when you take a better look at it right down the white line, you see the 45. He's off by about a nose. That's 4th to 1st. He's really the 3rd or 4th car to the pit out line. Yes. Here's another one. This is the 45 just holding serve at lap 166. We're going to see this continually. It looked like he was going to lose a spot.
Would have been 3rd there.
Once again, holding serve. And then the other big pass for the lead came a little bit later right here. This is actually a pass for the lead. So if I pause it, that is the pass. The 6 came in the leader. The 45 comes off pit road with the lead.
Yeah, in one of those situations, I think their pit stop times were a 1/10 and a half different. Tyler Reddick's team did a little better job on the pit stop, but not enough to leapfrog the pit selection of pit stall 1. Got him this lead.
Well, we talk about it takes everything. It took good pit stops and a good pit selection. It also took some good pit strategy. We saw a lot of green flag cycles in the first stage, and the second stage, and the third stage. And I know it's complicated and confusing when you watch. It's even complicated for us at home, but it's easier to break it down after. So when we break it down after, I think the 2 clear winners in the strategy game for me were the 17 of Buescher, the 54 of Gibbs, and this is in the 3rd and final stage. That's what we have in front of you.
And we saw in stage 1 and stage 2 the teams elected to one-stop it. Split it in half, but on the front side of that, it got a little aggressive on short pitting. But here, I felt like the 17 of Chris Buescher and the 54 of Ty Gibbs, they actually chose, this was a 101-lap green flag run. They weren't in position to race for a win. They chose to double stop this or stop it early and hope for a caution, which is what came to them.
All right, so what are you looking at? The white dotted line at the top is basically the leader. The curved yellow or greenish line and blue line is the gap behind the leader. So down away from the dotted line is costing you time. So if we play this forward, the first thing we're going to point out is right around here. So we'll stop it here, right? We can probably zoom in. Let's try this. All right, so this is before anyone pits, lap 228. We have Ty Gibbs about 9 seconds back. We have the 17 of Buescher.
They're 7th and 9th relative track position. That's where they were at this point. Not in a point where they're going to contend for the win. So I think both of them got aggressive on their pit calls.
So they come to pit road. Everyone else also pits, but if we stop it here, and just focus on this one more time, we'll see how much time's gained up. So the 54 went from 9 seconds back to basically 2 seconds back. That's a 7-second gain. The 17 made up almost 10 seconds. So the other thing I want to point out, though, is so here's what happens. So if we look at their thing, right, they have this big gain, and then they do start to trend because remember, they pitted early, so their tires are aging. They're going to give up some of that time. What are they hoping for? A yellow. Boom, they have a yellow. Now they have track position.
The original thought, I thought, was that they were going to two-stop this, that they would stop and break it into two pieces. That didn't look like it was going to work for them, but when the caution came, that fell in a perfect position to cycle them back into position to contend for a win. And let's make it clear to everybody that the pit cycles that we saw, yes, these guys were short pitting it here at 225 or 228 and 9. But the rest of the field, this is where the cycle has finished. So when we get to the caution, we've got 15, 18 laps. Everybody's coming to pit road.
Well, that's what we see here, right? They're starting to lose time to the leaders because the leaders have now come in, got fresh tires. They're running them back down. But the fact is, because everyone pitted, they were on the same lap as everybody. Basically, their full gain was realized when the yellow came out. Now, listen, good cars. I mean, this isn't just random. These are the crew chiefs saying we think we have good enough cars to win. We just have to gamble a little bit to get up there. This was a gamble, even though calculated. Really well done by both these race teams.
Yeah, and it put both of them in positions. That 17 was leading as we got to the end of this piece, and the 54 ended up being our second place finisher.
All right, so strategy's great, pit stops are great, but then it's time to put the boxing gloves on. And that's what happened at the end at Darlington. It starts 6, Brad Keselowski, 45, Tyler Reddick. Right behind him, the 17 of Buescher. A tough battle, side-by-side for multiple laps, and then contact between the 6 and the 45.
Yeah, this is just, I felt like really hard racing, the two of them leaning on each other, just racing hard because I knew whichever one got clear was going to be the eventual winner, but Chris Buescher took advantage of this.
Yeah, I think on board with Chris Buescher is a great look. He's trying to figure out what he wants to do. Maybe he wants to try to push the 6. And then you see, just running out of real estate. This is the problem. Up the hill, up the hill, up the hill. Finally, they both get tangled up into the wall. And Chris does a nice job keeping the momentum 3rd to 1st.
Yeah, and cleared as far as he could to not get side draft, got himself all the way clear of him into turn 1. That got him a lead and put him in control.
And why that matters is because then it moves on to the closing laps. This is the move everybody's going to be talking about. Tyler Reddick, this is heading down the backstretch. He just went from about 6 car lengths back to 2. Now he's heading into turn 3. And really, I'm going to just call it a dive bomb. It's a slide job gone wrong is really what it is. The 45 turns left. With the hopes, if we pause it here, look, he is hoping that he's going to slide up here in front of the 17, clear him, stop the 17. He's hoping the 17 is so low in grip he can't turn left and go back underneath him.
But at the same time, the 17 is playing defense on this, and he actually gasses this up to make sure that the 45 can't get clear of him. That's one of those situations here. I think Tyler was in no man's land. I think he's going to hit the wall either way. But when the 17, he doesn't clear the 17, he's definitely in vulnerable position.
Right here, the 45 is wrecking. Back of the car, he knows he's in there too deep. He's trying to slow down. The 17 actually gets into the wall before, right there, the 17's into the wall.
Nice little kiss straightening him up there.
Yeah, that's normal Darlington. And then the 45, I'll play at full speed, comes up. Big contact, slows them both down. Doesn't slow them down enough for Brad Keselowski to take the lead, but eventually 2 flat tires and Brad goes by them both. I think it's easy to judge on Monday. This, while I don't love this move, I can get my mind around it coming to the checkered. I just think, and I think Tyler Reddick will admit it, too much too early with 10 to go.
Yeah, I agree. If we've taken a white flag, I expect this move out of my driver. It's just one of those situations. I'm looking for the win, and he didn't quite get there. As you're coming, I think that's the start-finish line that we're just short of, or
that's right.
Restart zone. But it's just one of those moves that at that time was probably, to me, was too aggressive for 10 laps to go, especially since it looked like the 17 was falling off a little bit and Tyler had a better race car.
Yeah, on board now with car owner Brad Keselowski of the 17. He goes on to win the race, but he sees it. And it's hard to see. First of all, let's remind everybody how hard it is. Sun going into the shade. I mean, you could barely see the 2 cars ahead. We'll get into the shade where you could see it. And now it's just, I mean, look, you might as well be driving on gravel. Reddick has nothing to do but go up. There was a confrontation after the race. First of all, I love both sides. I love that Chris Buescher is mad. That's what I want to see. He lost by just mere inches. Now he's being wrecked running. And I love that Reddick doesn't make a bunch of excuses. He literally is like, you're right. I mean,
yeah.
like
I goofed up.
Yeah, what do you say at that point? Tyler Reddick's going to win a ton of races. I think we forget how early he is in his career. He had mentioned, I think, before that he was in this position a year ago and maybe didn't get aggressive early enough. Now maybe he's wishing he would have waited a little bit longer. It's always easier to do after.
As you said, Monday morning, always easy to make the call on it. In this situation, he said last year he didn't feel like he had the opportunity later. He should have taken it earlier. And this time, I think that drove him to make, I think, a too aggressive of a move on 10 to go. But.
Well, either way, Brad Keselowski, driver, owner, goes to victory lane. But it wasn't just the 6 going to victory lane. There were some other drivers that we hadn't seen in the top 10 a lot who had great runs at Darlington. We're going to break down the great run for Josh Berry and Justin Haley next.
Hey guys, I'm Corey LaJoy, driver of the number 7 car, joined my buddy Ryan Flores. Every week we stack some pennies. Talk about NASCAR Cup Series right out of my windshield.
Plus, we'll give out the dogs of the week for the best pit crews and pit crew guys from the weekend. We'll break down all the money stops, all the woes, get into some technical issues, and we'll also answer all of your hashtag Penny for Your Thoughts questions.
And we have a ton of guests. Sometimes SVG pops by. We got Raja. We have all sorts of guys. You never know who's going to pop in the Nonsense Garage, but make sure you tune in. SiriusXM on Tuesdays, YouTube on Wednesdays, wherever you find your podcast on Wednesdays as well. Come stack pennies with us.
A lot of names in the top 10 have great days at Darlington. 2 that jump out, though. The 4 of Josh Berry out of Stewart-Haas Racing. Rodney Childers said on Twitter he had a great long-run car, and it proved to pay off. And the 51 of Justin Haley. Berry started 33rd, Justin Haley 28th. Let's take a look at their days overall.
Yeah, definitely. Just blue-collar days. All they did is these are fast race cars in the long run. Looking at this trend line, definitely all day, just working their way forward. Impressive, and really put themselves in position, both with solid top 10 finishes. 3rd place for Berry, first top 10 at Stewart-Haas.
Yeah, what I look for is a moment. You know, we talk about moments all the time, and I don't really see one. Never do I see a huge jump in positions, which I would attribute to strategy or maybe a wreck in front of them. But I also don't see any real big drop in positions. And when you look at Justin Haley, the purple line, what's really most impressive is he didn't get much work done in the first stage.
No.
I mean, this purple line is pretty flat. Right? And then whatever they did at the end of stage 1 for adjustments, whatever he was feeling with his race car, then the trend does move north. And he kind of gets all the way up there. For Rick Ware Racing, this is a very good run. That's why they hired Justin Haley, is for the ability. Look, he's a really good road course racer. Mm-hmm. He's really good on the super speedways. We saw that in Xfinity. But I think Darlington, we always talk about as kind of a driver's racetrack. As crew chiefs, we love to make the cars drive great. None of them drive great at Darlington, so at some point the driver has to kind of just manipulate it through both ends of the racetrack. I think it's a tip of the hat to 2 drivers that could use a little boost on the year.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say that they jumped it on pit road or cycled. It's just good, solid runs that are, drivers and cars put themselves in position.
And teams. Because these guys, as you get better, your pit crew gets under more scrutiny. They even held up when it was their turn.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But I thought Josh Berry, after the qualifying effort we saw, would you say 33rd? They talked about underdriving it, but you don't know where it's going to be, and they just drove forward. He made a comment afterwards, said 10 more laps. I think I got a shot at winning.
So Josh Berry's qualifying specifically, in my mind, is just how much we overlook how good these guys are. Josh Berry's a great race car driver, and he just flat totally missed it. Just didn't drive it hard enough. Noah Gragson drove it too hard.
Yes.
Had a little contact with the wall, but think about it. You just got out of a car in practice, had old tires on it. Now you're supposed to pick up a couple seconds.
Probably 3.
Yeah, that's a hard reference.
Yeah, and well, by the way, get all that, but don't step over the boundary and end up in the wall because your teammate's going to start right next to you because he did that. So that's part of that whole rookie transition into learning these cars in Darlington. This is probably the hardest place to go from practice to qualifying because of how much commitment you've got to make lap time.
Well, Darlington's abnormal. Another race that's abnormal is the All-Star Race. We'll break down exactly the format and the tire options the teams will have.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week at Around the Track. We'll get you ready for the upcoming race weekends from short tracks to the Cup Series, whether you'll be attending in person or watching from home.
Coming your way each week is the best bets to win some easy money and driver suggestions to help pump up your fantasy lineups. Around the Track also tells you what to watch for in the NASCAR Regional Series and which young phenom drivers to keep your eye on.
Plus, our At Traction segment gives you all of the fan activities, concerts, and tailgating fun at the track. Be sure to check out Around the Track each and every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
halfway through the regular season, 13 down, 13 to go. That means it's All-Star break. We're going back to North Wilkesboro, repaved North Wilkesboro, so it should race a little bit different. And the format, a little bit different than last year. I think the best thing, let's just take a look exactly what we're in for the weekend.
Yeah,
it's a 200-lap race?
Yes, 200-lap race. We've got a mandatory caution that you've got to come for 4 tires at lap 100. You've got another break at 150 that you can choose what you want to do. Us crew chiefs like to have options. We've got that option tire. That's going to be the interesting piece of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to call them yellows and reds, right? So you have yellows and you have reds. So you have basically 2 options. Think about it this way. And these are dry. There's even the wet tires as well. So assuming we have good weather and we are on dry tires, we have what's I would call the standard tire. The tire we would race at North Wilkesboro if there wasn't any options. And then there's an option tire. The concept of the option tire is that it is roughly the same tire, same makeup, same build, same everything with a softer tread.
Yes.
Tread that touches the ground is more of kind of the wet tire compound. It's still slick, but it should have more grip in the short run, but I would imagine wear out much quicker than the standard tire.
And for what Goodyear released in their press release about this, they did run this option tire as one of the tires at the tire test. And it fired off with quite a bit more speed, but it wasn't 15 laps and it was going the wrong way. So going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for these teams.
So the option tire, I feel very confident at some point you're going to be on them too long. You don't want to be. This is a picture of the tires from Bristol, which was a big wear issue. We're going to see this at least one, if not all 4 of your tires, just because they're not supposed to be on the car that long.
Yeah, some team's going to get to this point, and hopefully it's not you before you get there.
So now the question really becomes, how long can they be on the car? And I don't think that answer is the same for every team. It's what you do with your settings, right? So let's look about, this is basically the front tires. Let's talk what camber is. Camber is these tires basically all tipped in at the top or tipped out really on the left, right? So the camber is the front tires tipped in the direction that you want to go. The car wants to turn left.
If you tip the top of the tire towards the way you want to turn, it makes where the tires make more thrust that way. So that makes more performance, makes you faster.
So there's going to be a couple things. There's going to be one, where you want the camber for peak performance. And when I mean performance, I mean lap time. I'm just going to make an abstract line and say, okay, the tire wants to be tipped in that much. That's the perfect amount for that tire to go around the racetrack.
Yeah, and that's dictated by how much wear you're going to have. We always wanted, we looked at it, if I knew how long a run I wanted to make, I wanted to get to the point where I used all of the rubber up on the inside of the tire, but not get past that to where we saw cords.
So the question really then becomes is, do I dare maybe put the tire a little bit straighter up, thus putting more tire on the racetrack so it will last longer. So even if this is a little slower, I have the softer tire on, so I'm going to be way faster. And now I'm going to put the softer tire in an area where I may be able to run. You say you might not put your set on until 25 to go. Well, if I put my settings right, could I get 35, 40, 45 laps out of that option tire? That could be the difference. The difference in winning this race could be setting my car up where I don't have to pit when you pit.
Yeah, pitting first and having the tires at the end, that would be the benefit. And who knows? You may come at 150 and we may have a rash of cautions and you only have to go 30 green flag laps. So these are all things that crew chiefs have to work their way through in setting their cars up the racetrack.
And now same conversation for toe, where I'm kind of put 2 arrows pointing in. You could always also even have them towed out, right? You could even have both pointed out, whichever the tire actually wants more. But even though it's the same construction, the different compounds could want something different. So this is how you and I always look at races, basically graphical, right? Lap 1 on the left, lap 200 on the right. Let's talk about what we have. We know we have 2 sets of regular tires and 2 sets of soft tires. That's a fact. We also know, what are we going to have? We know we're going to have a yellow right here around lap 100, and we know we're going to have a yellow at lap 150, and at 100, you have to make a pit stop.
Have to come for 4 tires at 100. You have the option to come at 150. The only mandatory is at 100.
Okay, the other thing we know is everyone has to start on the red, the softer tires, okay? So if we start here, we're going to say you qualify pretty good. We're going to put you about 15th.
Thanks.
I don't know if that's good or bad. We're starting on the red. The first question mark is, how far am I drawing this line?
Yeah, well, I think to the first caution. That would be my thought. But if you look at it, we've just taken that first set of tires out. We've only got 1 lap.
So now we have 1 set of softs, 2 sets of options, and at some point we know we can't run 100 laps. So I'm going to say we get a yellow. We'll call it easy because you and I like easy at this point in our lives.
Yeah, lap 30.
Yeah, right here. There's a yellow. Everybody's going to come, put on the regular tires. We're going to run basically at lap 100. I think we know that's a fact. Now we've burned 1 set of those, right? So now we have 1 of each left. We have to change tires at lap 100.
Yeah, and I feel like the field will say, all right,
Okay, well, let's just talk about this. You say the field, but if I'm 17th or 14th or 12th, I'm not getting there, man. Like, I'm not getting there on the same tires as you. So if I'm in the back of the field, I might put my reds on here. Knowing I got to take them back off, but if I put my reds on here and can get to the front, hey, you know what? Pass me. I'm going to go buy you on soft tires, and I'm going to make you pass me again. If I'm up front,
I would say that the guys up front, this is a no-brainer. They're going to take yellows. And I don't know that they come at 50, at 150. We'll see where that plays out. But these are the opportunities that we have as crew chiefs to make strategy calls.
this is what I'm going to point out, because this is when it's really all comes said and done. It's going to be right here. And that's between the last guaranteed yellow at lap 150 and the checkered flag at 200. And somewhere in this whole box right here, you're going to have to decide when you take your last set of soft
Reds,
tires.
yes.
That is when I believe the race is going to be won. And if I knew when that was going to be, I wouldn't do television.
Now, let me go back and throw another caveat in. Let's go ahead and let's go back, and let's say at lap 4 we have a caution.
Okay.
I take
You're
my
making
reds
my head
off.
hurt. Okay.
I take my reds off at that point, put yellows on. Now I've got a 4-lap set of scuff reds.
Put back on.
I might have 2 sets of reds at the end. This is how you have to be able to adapt on the fly, because cautions can change up the strategy on the run.
Well, we've heard a lot about tires. I applaud Goodyear, right? They brought a soft tire to Bristol. They've tried to be aggressive. This is a ton of work for the tire manufacturer, for Goodyear to bring. Look, one tire's not going to agree with somebody's car. The other tires will agree with somebody else. You know, there's going to be a lot of chaos and a lot of unknown. It'll be interesting to see which crew chief and engineering combination guess the right setup for the right tire for the type of race we see, for when you get the right set of tires on. That's basically it. Those are the 4 things you have to get lined up.
You can worry about how your settings are going to be for performance you've got, but you don't know when the cautions are going to fall. And that's going to change the strategy of what actually works and what becomes the right call.
Yeah, what we do know is this. The unknown is great. There was going to be a little bit of practice on Friday. There's going to be some heat races on Saturday. But if you want to watch the All-Star race, it's the Open, the qualifying race, 5:30 on FS1. And then the big show, the All-Star main event, 8 p.m. Sunday night on FS1.